5 out of 7 nights below zero. Or we would call it a European style speed disc. You can get a job in construction as a flag girl. I don't feel good about planting beans. Another morning, another frost. Tuesday morning, and we just went through another night of really cold weather. And it's starting to take its toll on us as farmers, but also on our crops. We are not at super critical stages with wheat. We're probably just at kind of mid start or just starting or kind of starting stem elongation, like I said in my scouting video. So it can take a bit of a frost yet before the weed head comes out, because if the weed head gets too far up the plant stem, it can get damaged by the cold weather. So we've been getting down. The lowest I've seen on our weather station has been -3, -4. It hasn't been that bad. Last night, Monday night, Sunday night, Monday night, or Sunday night, early Monday morning it didn't freeze, it got down to 0. But this morning, kind of early morning here Tuesday, it looked like it got down to about I think 3. We got one more night of it, and then it's supposed to warm up quite a bit, but we've been, I think, 5 out of 7 nights below 0. So that would be under 32 degrees Fahrenheit and 0 for us here in Celsius. So not ideal, hard. Well, I'm worried about the canola. We won't know what we got out of it until probably the end of the week here to see if there's damage, but it's not good. So one of the issues we're going to run into is actually we have wet weather coming now, and that's the hard part about all this, is that we're getting out of the cold snap, but we're going into wet weather because warm weather for us usually comes out of the south, and it's picking up Gulf of Mexico cold air, Gulf of Mexico warm air, warm moist air, and it's pulling it up into the Great Lakes area here. So the next little bit looks wet. The worst part is that I don't think we're going to get a warm rain before it turns wet. So I was hoping to plant some soybeans tomorrow before the rain on Thursday, and it's talking rain all day Thursday. I'm a little worried that the rain isn't quite warm enough for the soybeans to handle that cold water going into them, because if you get cold water sucked into a soybean seed in the first 24 hours, it can really have an impact on germination. And I've seen that, and I've dealt with it before, and I just don't want to deal with it again. So I don't know what to do. The problem is that we have a couple farms that are in really good condition because they've dried out over the last couple weeks here, and they're always nicer to plant when it's dry. And because they're dry, I want to plant them, because if it goes wet, they're not going to be fun to plant. So that's kind of the great debate like I always have. So I don't know what I'm going to do. We don't have a lot of acres of soybeans this year. We're growing a lot of pulse crops instead, so dry beans like white beans and black beans. To be honest, we can plant all our soybeans probably in about 4 days, but if we kind of miss this small window here tomorrow, we are probably not going to be back at it for a week and a half, which will push us into the last part of May. And it's just frustrating because we've been planting beans the end of May for the last 4 years, and we just never seem to get the frickin' weather to let us plant beans in a decent time. So I don't know what the answer is. I guess it's farming, and there's frustrations that come with it, and probably my biggest frustration with farming outside of the grain markets is weather. You'll see here that we actually have the Alari off the planter tractor, and we actually have it all cleaned out of corn, and the plates switched over for edible beans, and that's assuming that we don't have to replant any corn, which we won't. I'm not too worried. The corn in the ground, all the seed that's in the ground, the corn I've checked so far is in really good shape. It hasn't been cold enough to affect it. It's just what it's doing is making it take a long time to come out of the ground. But with this warm weather coming, it's going to pop pretty quick, so I'm not worried about it. Not worried at all. But I think today we'll actually go joker some of the corn stalks that we already did one pass on, but it was the one that we rutted up, and I think we'll just try to smooth it up. There's a couple washouts in it that I want to fix. And I'll probably try to fix the washouts, get Jack to take over on the Joker, and then I'm gonna try to fix a tile there quick before he gets done that field, and then he can work that area where the tile is dug up. So I'm gonna get the planter tractor 8R on the Joker. Normally we put this tractor on it, but we're probably, Jess and I after lunch are gonna get it on the drill or the air seeder and get it all set up. And I'll take you through those steps so you understand what we're doing. But we have to do offsets and a whole bunch of different things, because instead of planting like the wheat where there's a plant every 7.5 inches, we're planting every 15 inches. So we have to lock up the front gang, and we got to do some offsets on it and everything. So I'll show you that. But in the meantime, we're going to get that tractor hooked up to the Joker and go fix some washouts. Got the Joker going behind me here. There's a few questions in the last couple videos about what a Joker is, and it's a piece of tillage equipment, and it's behind us. It would be, I guess in North America here, we would call it a European style speed disc, and we got it last year, not quite a year ago. Well, actually it would be about a year ago, and we're just trying to smooth out some ruts here like I was talking about, and some washouts. But I'm going to come here with the loader, I think, and catch a couple of these spots with the bucket and just kind of push some dirt in. They're still pretty bad in a few areas, but overall it's not too bad. And as I said, we're just incorporating some fertilizer I spread there on the weekend and getting the corn stalks kind of leveled out. So once we kind of get this done here, we probably won't work this farm again for a couple of years. So that's kind of why we want to make sure it's smooth and we get all the ruts out from harvesting the corn last fall when it was wet. Tiles fixed. I didn't get much footage because I got muddy with my hands. I didn't want to destroy my camera, and I got a soaker, which we would call a wet boot because I didn't have my rubber boots, or as some people call them, wellies. yeah, I wasn't really thinking. So I got a wet foot, but the tile's fixed. Jack should be wrapping up there in the next 45 minutes to, oh, maybe an hour and a half because he's got the headlands. And I'm going to just get the air seeder hooked up to the other tractor. Jess and I will work on it this afternoon to get it all the offsets like I talked about set up, and we'll take you through that journey. Just topping the tractor up with fuel. Got the air seeder hooked on and ready to go. Jess and I are gonna go figure this out. So when I talk about gangs, there's two. This is the front gang here, and then behind me is the back gang. And when they're both down, the row spacing for this is 7.5 inches. And I can't do the quick conversion on metric. But when we're gonna plant 15-inch beans, we're gonna lock this gang up. So when we lower this unit in the field, it's folded right now, this one will stay up and that one will engage in the ground. So I'll show you when we get to the field, but that's how it works. What?
Nothing.
Okay, we're just going out to check the offset. So what we're trying to do here is we have to shift the center of the tractor to match up for the 15-inch rows, because the back gangs there are not directly behind the tractor evenly. They're a little bit more towards the left when you're standing behind it. So we have to shift our line or center of the tractor left in the GPS, and then what that does is it gives us the proper distance between the rows between each pass of the drill. So we did a one check and it looked good. So what we do here is we drove that way where Jess is standing, and then we stop, hop out, and put a flag on the very edge of the planter pass in the last row. Then we go down, turn around, come back and plant alongside it, and then once we go past it, we stop, hop out, and we're going to measure it right now. So we have our two flags here. So we want 15 inches. So we do a measurement here between the two flags, and it looks like we're about 17. So we're 2 inches too wide on this guess row or this pass, and the other one we were close. We were what, 14?
Yep, 14.
So we could do a shift here. So I'm gonna do some math in my not in my head, on my phone, and we might just adjust the offset, but we're really close. One other thing we're trying to do I wanted to check to see is just where these rows we're planting. And if you can see it a little bit here, there's an old corn row there, there's one there, and there's one there. And what we're trying to do with these 15-inch rows is actually put it in between the old corn rows, which are 30 inches. So what that really entails is that we're gonna have one row that's 7.5 inches off that old corn row there, and then we'll have another bean row that's 7.5 inches off this one here. So both the rows of soybeans are going to be in between two old corn rows, which works out well. So we'll just get this guess row figured out a little bit better, and then we'll go from there. So Jess is just putting a flag in that outside row, and we're going to come back and just kind of test the new numbers we came up with. You can get a job in construction as a flag girl.
Could you imagine?
Well, that wraps up today's festivities. It was a nice day. The sun was shining. I don't feel good about planting beans with the cold night we're talking about having tonight. Coldest night yet. Just got an alert on my phone that we could get down to -6. Which isn't great. I checked our first planted corn there with Jess. I didn't have my camera, but it's just got a little 1/4-inch nub. So it's been in the ground since the 25th of April. Today is the 11th of May, so I think Jess figured it was 17 days. So I'm glad we're getting heat coming, because we need it to get that corn out of the ground, and I'm also glad it hasn't done a whole lot, because we're just a little bit concerned that we might get the ground really cold and freeze. If the ground actually freezes and gets hard with the frost, That's really bad. It could actually kill the corn plant or the corn seed, so kind of crossing our fingers that doesn't happen. But this is probably the coldest stretch of a May, kind of this time of year, that I can ever remember farming. So it just goes to show every year is different. I checked the canola too with Jess quick. So far it looks like it's surviving, and just hope it gets through one more night here of this cold weather. Lots of flower blossoms or buds on it, so I'm optimistic about that it's made it so far. So get through tonight, and then we'll see where we are after 3 or 4 days of warm weather. Reassess everything. I think we'll be fine. But for soybeans, I just don't want the beans in such cold soil, because it didn't, like, the soil warmed up, the air is cold today, the wind, and it's talking, as I said, warming up tomorrow, but I don't know. I'm still on the fence. I talked about plant one field and don't know if I'm going to. Today we just kind of did a little bit of jokering. I ran it on 36 acres that needed a little bit of evening up from a tough harvest. I didn't think we were that hard in the field, but we were bad enough, so needed to smooth it out, so did that. Taught Jack how to run the fertilizer spreader, so he actually spread a load of fertilizer this afternoon while I was running the Joker. Jess power washed the sprayer to get all the 28 off it, and tomorrow I think I'll get Jack to spray some, or not spray, I think I'll get Jack to spread some fertilizer, and I'll think about plant beans. If I don't plant beans, I'll probably spray, because I can probably do that. So if the wind's down, I might just plop my butt in the sprayer and spray for the day and just wait till nice weather for soys.